I reviewed a game called Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 1 quite a while ago. I had planned on doing a review for the sequel almost immediately, but stuff happened. And the other day I'm going through my PS2 games and I stumble across Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 2. I popped it into my PlayStation 2 and started playing it for a little while, and that's when it hit me. I still have to review this game. And that's how we got here. Fatal Fury Battle Archives Volume 2 picks up right from where Volume 1 left us. The first game in the compilation is Real Bout Fatal Fury. And let me start off by saying this game looks great. The colorful graphics and thick bold lines really draw me in. We'll get into how good the level designs look in a bit. The game controls a bit differently than previous titles in the series. Instead of having two weak and two strong kick and punch attacks, we are now given a standard punch, standard kick, and one strong attack. This streamlines the action a bit, but can be confusing as the strong attack button can often result in either a punch or a kick, which can be confusing when trying to pull off special moves. Luckily, the move combos in this game are very smooth and doesn't take much effort at all to easily land these moves. There's also a power meter that's new to the series. This meter is similar to those seen in other fighters alike. And there are a few variations of super moves that can be performed in different situations with different levels of the power meter filled. Just like in Fatal Fury 3, we're given a three-plane system in which to fight, the default being the middle with the option for background fighting as well as swinging into the foreground to dodge attacks. The roster is similar to the one seen previously in Fatal Fury 3, but we see some familiar faces return in the form of Duck King, Billy Kane, and Kim Kapwan. Seriously though, you just can't have a Fatal Fury game without Billy Kane. It's just not right. Another addition to the series are ring outs. This happens when you or your opponent is forced to either the left or the right side of the stage until it ends. This is where there is usually some sort of barrier that can be broken, at which point a ring out can take place. These add a lot to the gameplay and even add a bit of humorous aspect to the end of a heated battle. Check this one out. So my burning knuckle gets dodged, sending me into this light scaffolding and ultimately electrocuting my fighter. But revenge is sweet, as I came back and in the next round sent Billy Kane into the same scaffolding that was now completely engulfed in flames. Awesome. This is the kind of detail that makes these levels feel alive. SNK was already innovative for their day and night cycle in the series, but now with little detail like this, it engages my interest even more. I mentioned how good this game looks, and it doesn't stop at the character sprites. I love the backgrounds in this game. Little details like characters way off in the distance that actually have moving animations, those are pretty impressive to me. Geese Howard's stage especially always grabs my attention. I love the look of the city way in the background as it scrolls during movement. It just looks so ominous and fits a boss battle perfectly. The music is great in this game, but what throws me off is the fact that instead of a song being tied to a stage, it's actually tied to the character you're fighting. You see, in this game, you're actually fighting a few people in each stage, so as your opponent changes, so does the music, but the stage remains the same for a few battles. The format is a little strange and means less level designs, but I'm actually fine with it. It works here. This is an extremely polished Fatal Fury game, and it's an all-around great title in the series. If this was the only game on the disc, it would be worth it already, but that's definitely not the case, as the next title on the list is
Real Bout Fatal Fury Special.
The game boasts even more playable characters on top of what we saw in the last title. Additions to the game include characters from previous titles like Lawrence Blood and Wolfgang Krauser, who's once again making the role for final boss after Geese was killed off in the last game. Well, sort of killed off. He does serve as a secret character in this title. There's also a few alternative versions of players that are known as EX versions, which gives us a total of 24 characters. Needless to say, more characters is definitely not a bad thing. The gameplay remains the same for the most part. One of the changes is the 3-plane system seen in the last 2 titles has actually been ditched to return to the series' roots 2-plane system. In this 2-plane system, you can choose to battle in either the foreground or background for extended periods. Also, some players' moves have been changed, which makes it a little difficult to jump straight into this title after playing the first Real Bout. But once you adjust to these minor changes, it won't take long to really start feeling at home with the controls. Special received a pretty nice graphical update. The new characters look fantastic and the returning characters have upgraded sprites. Clearly, Bash has been hitting the juice a little hard. The backgrounds still look really good here, but I have to say I think I like the level selection a little more in the last title. I do, however, really enjoy the pre-match intros right before the fight takes place. These are very entertaining and often funny. This game has the same stage format in that many characters will share the same level. While this did work for the previous title, I was hoping to see a little bit more here for the sequel. It just starts to look kind of lazy. The music is really good, as always with a Fatal Fury game, and the sound effects are no different. There are plenty of different punch, kick, and vocal noises happening at all times, and unlike the first title, the game's announcer speaks English pretty clearly. What did he say? Ring outs have also been completely removed from all stages. There are still destructible walls that can be broken to reveal more playing field, but kinda miss those ring outs. Something that's really important to this series is the difficulty level. It can be easy enough if you need it to be, but you can also amp up the difficulty if you prefer a challenge or an aneurysm. Real Bout Fatal Fury Special is a great game, but it's not the final game included in this compilation, because coming up last, but certainly not least, is
Real Bout Fatal Fury 2, The Newcomers.
Real Bout Fatal Fury 2 features even more players. This roster is pretty loaded. In addition to the fighters from the previous title, they added a few brand new characters to the series. And Geese is once again a standard selectable character. Jumping right into gameplay, you'll quickly notice that it plays exactly like Real Bout Fatal Fury Special, except for one thing. We've gone back to having a default line for fighting and a secondary plane used strictly for dodging attacks. And some stages feature only a single plane fighting line, which will force some players to change their strategy. I prefer this format for these titles. It keeps the battle flowing a bit better. By now, it's clear that the series has absolutely been perfected as far as gameplay and controls go. I don't think we could ask for much more. From the ease of pulling off special moves to combos to the entire flow of the game, it's simply fantastic. The music has been recycled from the previous title, which is a little disappointing, but this is still very good music, so it could be worse. Sound effects and voices are still pretty much flawless. Visually, this game looks as good as the last. The stages are still limited in variety, with fighters once again sharing stages. These stages are often dressed up a little differently between characters, with little changes like lighting, time of day, and subtle background animation changes. This standard had been set with the first Real Bout, and these backgrounds really live up to that standard. There's a lot going on in the crowded stages, and the isolated levels feel surprisingly calm for a battleground. This game is just the perfect fighting game. I mean, that sounds like a little much, but for me, this game is all I need in a fighter. In fact, all three of them are, really. In fact, I actually probably like the first Real Bout the best out of all three. This is hands down my favorite fighting game compilation ever created. I didn't get introduced to the Real Bout series until the mid-2000s, but it is without a doubt one of the best series of fighters I've ever come across. In closing, I'd like to say that that's the wrong game, and I actually meant to hold up this one. But you can still get it on Amazon, brand new, for pretty cheap, right around 20 bucks. This game is really worth the money. And if you really like fighting games, as a matter of fact, if you just kind of like fighting games, check this game out. Thanks for watching another episode of Spotlight Video Game Reviews. Please keep subscribing, keep liking, comment so I can read them. And stay tuned because I have more videos coming soon.